Let this sink in for a moment. The lack of financial education cost Americans $450 billion in 2021. 78% of American homeowners are living paycheck to paycheck. And right now, most American homeowners are equity rich and cash poor. That's another word for broke. The media isn't helping you, schools aren't helping you, and the government for sure isn't going to save you. As a top 1% mortgage professional and seasoned investor, I cannot sit around and watch these life-changing skills that I've learned outside of traditional schooling be unused, untaught, and thrown in the trash can. So until these statistics change, I'll be here every single week, preaching and teaching personal and professional finance, information that you can use in your life, however that looks, whether you are 16 or 60. Hey, welcome back to the Happy Homeowner Podcast. I've got an incredible guest today, an actual, true, real American hero. We've got Will Smith, combat veteran, VA mortgage guy, and this is our first podcast in February, and I couldn't think of a better guest to have. Every single month, I pick a topic in my mortgage practice. Last month, it was the USDA home loan. This month, it's the VA home loan. And so I try to create content around each one of those loan programs or topics every single month. And we're going to absolutely hit a home run today. I know it. I know Will personally. I know him professionally, and his story is just absolutely amazing. So, one, I want to say welcome.
Great to be here.
Two, I want to say thank you for your service, brother.
Appreciate that.
So, let's rewind a few years. Give us your story. Like, what caused you to get into the armed forces? Your Army, right?
Yes, sir.
What caused you to enlist? Kind of walk us through your journey, and then we'll get into the mortgage side of it here in a couple of minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just a knucklehead in high school. Didn't really care much about what the future held for me. So I just went ahead and applied to Bowling Green State University in Ohio. I got accepted, and I just still didn't have a plan. It wasn't until I started talking to some friends of mine that they're, talking about the military. I never had military in my family, so I didn't know much about it. But I jumped in both feet first. Did 12 years, had 2 deployments in Iraq. Spent a couple months doing some missions with the DEA, actually, over in the Bahamas. It's pretty awesome doing that. But yeah, over the course of 12 years, I learned a lot about who I am as a person and about a lot of the different things in the Army, obviously. But one of the things I didn't really know much about is, what I wanted to do afterwards. I only did 12 years because I got injured my first deployment, and I kind of stuck it through as long as I could. But when you get old, your body tends to tell you things that you might not think otherwise.
Yeah, tell me about it, man. Yeah.
But, went ahead and just rocked and rolled, did my 12 years. After I got out of the Army in 2016, I spent several years working in automations engineering. Okay. Fancy words, I just did HVAC and lighting programming.
Okay.
It was good, paid very well, but I just missed my passion for helping people. I was working on equipment. I wasn't actually interacting with anybody. Yeah. My last 3 years that I was in the Army, I was a recruiter.
Okay.
In doing so, I got to work a lot in my community, rubbing elbows with professors, teachers, coaches, parents, finding different ways that I can help their children be successful, and it was that passion that I was missing. So there I was just sitting there like, I'm making good money doing what I'm doing, but I'm not happy. Yeah. What can I do to kind of thread the needle on those two to where I'm happy and I'm making a good living for my family? And I'm just like, you know what? I want to go back to helping people. And a lot of the people that I know very well, that I've had best friends across the nation for years, are my veteran friends and family.
Yeah.
When I got out of the Army in 2016, I didn't buy my first home until a year later.
Okay.
And the lender I was working with, he didn't know much. And I didn't know it at the time until, I started to learn more about this career that I'm just like, wow, he didn't really know anything at all. Now knowing what I know, I talk to a lot of my friends, and there are a lot of questions that they have about what the VA loan can do, can't do. That's really what I want to do, is take the knowledge I have and try to help them build, basically build wealth through real estate. Yeah. There are a lot of things you can do.
So would you say you got into mortgage finance because of a poor experience or just an average experience, or how did you actually go, hey, I want to get into mortgage finance and help veterans leverage the VA benefit to buy homes?
Yeah. What it all boiled down to was I noticed that there was a big gap between, in the mortgage finance world, where a lot of veterans are not getting what they could be getting because the lender didn't know what they were doing. Yeah. And there's a lot of missed opportunities there. So I wanted to kind of bridge the gap there. Not only use my knowledge of service, knowledge of the VA loan, and my passion for helping people, just try to make it all work, help out anybody I can.
Love it. So you get into mortgage industry, and you go in 100% into helping, your former colleagues, veterans and servicemen and women. Okay, so he said something that was really important that I think I want you all to hear is, when you bought your first house, you used your VA benefits to buy that house, and there was very little education around how to use the benefits, how to use the loan program as a strategy. Because if you bought in 2017, 2018, that was a pretty competitive market, right? So there's that probably encouraged you to be like, hey, there's a gap in the mortgage industry. There's a gap serving our veterans. What specifically, when you got into mortgage, did you see right away when you were serving veterans, when you were helping people specific to the VA process or the VA home loan?
It's honestly what it boils down to is they don't know what they don't know. Yeah. Like, they've all heard of the VA loan, but they don't know when they can use it. Mm-hmm. I mean, me, for example, I am so angry at myself, and I'll tell you why. Mm-hmm. I spent the better part of my adult life renting. Yeah. Year after year after year. I was either renting in an apartment or living in on-post housing. Yeah. And I could have used my VA loan while I was still in the Army and started building equity. Yeah. And I had 13 years that I missed out on that. So the way it boils down, it doesn't matter who you pay. You're paying for someone's mortgage. Yeah. Whether it's somebody else's or it's your own, you're paying for someone's mortgage. Why not let it be yours? So
we have to assume that not all veterans that understand veteran lingo, or active duty service members that understand, service lingo, if you will. When you're in the armed forces, for example, you get a housing allowance.
Yes.
And that's what he's referring to, is this housing allowance you get can be used toward, if you were to go out and buy a home, it can be used, it's housing. Yep. So let's say it's $1,800 a month and your mortgage is $2,000. You now have to come up with $200 a month to pay your mortgage. That's it, right? So there's one of the big myths, and we're going to get to this in a minute. That's why we're doing this podcast today, is to uncover and demystify. I like it. I like that, right? Demystify a lot of these myths. And one of them is that you can't buy until you're out of service. You said you spent 12 years plus 3, so 15, right? 12 in the Army and then 3 as a recruiter. Is that right?
No, my last 3 of those 12.
Last 3. Okay.
Yeah, so 12 years total.
So 12 total renting. Yeah. And that's your biggest regret. Yeah. Was that you guys didn't purchase sooner.
In the home that I'm in now, down there in Puyallup in Pierce County, I bought for $489. 3 years later, just 3 years, it appraised for $730.
There you go. Yeah,
that's only 3 years. Yeah. I quadruple that.
Yeah. So youngsters, if you're listening to this, leverage government money, leverage the benefits that you're getting for serving to think forward to start creating wealth in real estate. Like Will just said, it doesn't matter. You're paying somebody's mortgage, whether it's yourself, whether it's yours or someone else's, right? Okay. So you got in the mortgage industry. It's 2023 now. We're in February 2023. What are some of the biggest gaps, some of the biggest things you're seeing right now in the mortgage industry relative to serving veterans? Are they still uneducated? Are they unaware of their benefits? Are they still kind of tabling homeownership because of the myths in the marketplace? Another big one that I see, and I'm super disappointed with this in the real estate community with real estate agents, they look down, they frown upon veterans and VA loans. They think they're a weaker loan. We're going to get to this in a minute, but are you still seeing all of this stuff, or is this getting better in our marketplace?
So I am seeing a lot of that. The most surprising thing that I'm seeing are veterans who've already purchased a home. Mm-hmm. They've already used their VA loan. I've recently made a post about how I have an active duty veteran couple that are using their current home as a rental property, and they're moving here and purchasing another home. So their minds were blown when they found out you can own more than one home.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, okay, there's clearly a gap in knowledge here. They don't know what they can do, and a lot of them are just sitting around wasting time and opportunity.
So what Will's talking about, you guys, let's say, for example, his friends, because I see you wearing an Ohio State Buckeye hat, which I love. I love Division I college sports. I don't care. I love Clemson, by the way, just because of the coaches. But I think these guys, these college football coaches nowadays they're doing such a great job creating winners in life, and on the football field and off. But so let's say you had a buddy in Ohio, and home values in Ohio are not as high as home values in Seattle or Washington.
Nowhere near.
So let's say your buddy buys he's active duty, buys a $250,000 house with his VA loan in Ohio. And then he comes out here and doesn't think, because of his realtor giving him bad advice or someone giving him bad advice, saying you can't have two VA loans at one time. Wrong. You can have two VA loans at one time. There's a thing in King, Snohomish, and Pierce County called bonus entitlement. And that allows you, based off of the county loan limits, to qualify and have two VA loans at one time.
Yeah, same thing there in Pierce County.
Pierce County. So you could qualify, for example, for a $700,000 to $800,000 VA loan, while keeping your home in Ohio that you owe, $250,000 on, or you use $250,000 of that entitlement. So lots of myths. We're still seeing that. Yeah. What else are you seeing right now in the market?
Just a lot of people that, besides people not even filing to get their VA stuff. Mm-hmm. A lot of them that just don't know that you can use it more than once as well.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, I've used my VA loan already. I can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
No, it's not true.
How about this one too, Will, with disability. Yeah. Right? So disability benefits with VA. So if you go, let's say your veteran has a greater than a 10% disability, right?
Yep.
No funding fee. So I had a client the other day not want to buy a home the second time with VA because of the subsequent use funding fee. So the funding fee being over 3%. He was like, oh, that's just too much money. It was an $800,000 house. That's $25,000. And I said, with all due respect, sir, like you have a disability, and a service-related disability. Yeah. Zero. You save $25,000 in fees on your next VA. And the guy literally was speechless. And so we're bringing you this information today because there are so many myths. There's so many things that are sidelining people right now, veterans and active duty servicemen and women, because of misinformation or lack of information. Yeah. I gave a talk at the National Guard. So it was up in Smoky Point, Marysville. There was about 30 to 40 reservists, right? And they brought us in to talk because the VA, I think, will send information out, but they're not proactive in educating. Like, you're getting out of the Army. You've done your 4 years, and you're gonna, hey, I'm gonna move on. They don't do a whole lot of educating you on the benefits that you've earned, right? No. So they brought us in to do I had put together a 12-point PowerPoint. I had a line of people waiting to talk to me after the event saying thank you. Like, the clarity, the financial education, the investment advice on leveraging your VA loan to create wealth. They were just like, we've never been taught this. We never thought we could do this.
Well, what they do is, somebody will whip up a pamphlet or a brochure, but it's very vague. Yeah. It's non-specific. It's not garnered towards any person, because every person has a different family scenario, different career. Yeah. There's all these different variables that are not taken into account, and you don't know until you start to ask the questions.
Yeah, 100%. So we want to wrap today with some education. So I assume that this podcast is going to be watched by mortgage lenders, It's going to be watched by realtors. Realtors, please do your part and share this and get this information out. Yeah. You're hearing it real life from someone that put his life on the line for 12 years, for 9 out of the 12 you were in combat, right? You were deployed?
Well, not all of it, but
eight, how many years were you deployed?
I did 2 rotations to Iraq, so a little over 2 years.
That's crazy. Guy gets done, and he gets no education on how to use his benefits that he earned. You earned them, dude. This burns me out. So we need, not to mention he earned them, comes back, and I see this every single day with our veteran clients, with our clients, and they have resistance against the offers that they put on homes because the listing agent's like, no, we're not gonna take a VA loan because the appraisal process takes longer or because of X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, dude, you need to get out of the 90s, man. It's 2023. Yeah. What you're talking about right now may have been true for VA home loans 10, 15, 20 years ago. But today, we close VA home loans here at New American Funding in sometimes 10 to 14 days. As soon as we get the appraisal back, we close. We have our veterans fully underwritten up front. Now, there's data out there that will support this notion that veterans are actually more qualified than conventional buyers. They have higher credit scores on average than conventional buyers. Yeah. They have higher cash net worths than conventional buyers. So don't discriminate based off of myths or just bad information about the VA home loan process that you have experienced because you worked with a bad lender. Remember what you said when you first bought your home.
You nailed it.
It was a bad experience. Well, people remember the bad experiences more than they remember good experiences, right? Yeah. So I think it's just so important. Realtors, if you're listening to this, please share this information because 99% of the stuff you're hearing bad about VA loans is just a myth. All right? What we wanted to do today is we wanted to wrap up with, if you are a veteran or if you're currently serving or you're a realtor or a mortgage loan officer, we want to give you some key takeaways, things that you may not know about the VA home loan. Yeah. So the first is there's a myth that right now we're kind of in a market where you can negotiate closing costs. Sellers will pay closing costs. So there's a myth that there's a 4% max seller concession or seller credit. That's a myth. That's wrong. So there is no 4%. Yep. The other part of that, you can go greater than 4%. The other part of that is you can actually get a seller concession to pay off the veteran's debt to qualify. This is crazy, right? Like crazy amazing. So that's the first one. The second big myth that I hear real estate agents talk about is that VA appraisers over-investigate or inspect the house, and then they always come back with things that need repaired. Yeah. So that's a huge myth. We do a lot of VA loans in my office, and I can tell you firsthand, don't listen to the media, don't listen to the naysayers. I can tell you firsthand, we have less issues on VA loans than we have on conventional and jumbo loans. Yep. Okay? So that's a huge myth. Another myth is that VA appraisals take too long. No, VA appraisers by law, per the VA, we order the VA appraisal through the VA, right? They have to have it back to us within 14 days or less. So they're held to a standard. Most other appraisers, they have no standards.
It's the Wild West.
It's the Wild West, right? So 3 main myths around VA appraisers. So real estate agents, you take it from me, a top producer in the mortgage industry, another top producer in the VA home loan community, that these are absolute myths. Am I right?
You nailed it, man.
We're in the trenches. Like, we actually are seeing what's going on out there. We're not reading the news or reading some stupid article from 12 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. The other thing I love, we're in, I know Pierce County, King County, Snohomish County do have a lot of condos. In order to buy a condo with a VA loan, the project has to be VA approved. Yeah. The approval process through the VA to get a condo approved is more streamlined than HUD, FHA, or Fannie Mae. So big perk there. I want to go back, though, real quick. Talking about VA appraisers, okay? Let's say worst case scenario, the appraisal comes in low. So let's say you're buying a $2 million house with a jumbo loan, and your appraisal comes in low. $2 million home, it comes in at 1.7. You're stuck with that appraisal at 1.7. It is what it is. That's it. There's no negotiating it. You're stuck.
Or is it?
Well, with VA, guess what? There's a thing called the Tidewater Initiative. If the VA appraiser goes out to appraise that $2 million home and is having a hard time supporting that value, he issues Tidewater. What that does is it loops in the listing agent, the buyer's agent, the lender, the borrower. Everyone comes together. Hey, I'm having a hard time coming up with value. Let's put our minds together. What am I missing? And you have a set amount of time to get some data back to that appraiser to support value.
Yep.
Okay? So that's a perk. There's no other loan program out there where you can even talk to the appraiser. Okay? So that's a perk. One of the things that I love, we talked earlier about paying off debt for the veteran through seller concessions. Let's say the veteran needs some gift funds to pay for closing costs, or wants to, mom, dad, or hey, brother or friend wants to like gift you some money. Say, hey, I appreciate your service. You did a lot for me. I'm gonna give you 50 grand. And he's just your bro. You can use gift funds not only from family members, but from outside of family to qualify for a VA home loan or use with a VA home loan. So that's really big. Yeah. And then, like we talked about it a few minutes ago, you can have multiple VA loans. So these are some really, really big myths that I think are keeping veterans, that one, it's a disservice to veterans, but it's keeping veterans on the sidelines versus getting them in the game where they belong. Yeah. So did I miss anything, man?
No, man, you pretty much hit it all, and you're exactly right. Getting them to where they belong. I mean, not only am I, a veteran and a mortgage professional, but I'm somebody who understands. I've had the early mornings, the late nights, the time away from family, the missed birthdays, the missed anniversaries, seeing your child's birth. Yeah. I've seen firsthand what it is to pay the ultimate price. Yeah. And I think that a lot of times, we cut ourselves short in our benefits just because we simply don't know. We just assume that everything's already been told to us. Yeah. Wrong. Yeah. So that's what I want to do. I want to help veterans that don't already use their disability or education or home benefits, and the ones that are currently using them, I want them to maximize them. Yeah.
I think you're spot on, Will. I think there's a couple of things in closing that I really want. This is the cherry on top of the sundae that I really want you to understand.
Give it to me.
If you're thinking about buying a home and using your VA benefits, realtors, this is a good one to pay attention to. The reason why we don't have problems serving our veterans in regards to the VA loan experience is because we are a direct lender that has underwriters with the heart to serve our veterans. Okay, we're doing everything possible to help this veteran get into this home and get approved for this home with a great experience and to make sure they're making the best use of their money, right? It's the bigger banks and the credit unions and the brokers that don't necessarily, and other mortgage lenders, there's probably good at each one of those levels. I'm just saying, in general, the bad experiences are oftentimes coming from entities that I believe they abuse the name. Like one of these banks or credit unions has the word Navy in them that doesn't do anything good, or the word veterans in them. It doesn't.
I know a few.
You know what we're talking about, right? I know
a few.
Listen, they have inexperienced people in call centers trying to help a veteran with the largest financial decision of their life, and they butcher it. And I'm not just making this stuff up. I get the calls from realtors every day or veterans every single day going, Dan, having an issue with my loan. I found you on the internet. Can I ask you a question? They ask me a question. I'm like, that's complete rubbish. It's bad information. Yep. Come on in. Let me take care of you.
Save the day.
Save the day. And so I want to encourage you, realtors and veterans, future homeowners, make sure you're working with a pro. Reach out to Will. Reach out to me. Let us put together our resources to help you. I want to encourage you, if you're in the Pierce County area, you got to reach out to this guy. Go sit down with him. Let Will review your finances. Build out a financial plan. Let him talk about creating wealth through real estate, leveraging the VA home loan. One of the things that we didn't talk about, and we'll leave this for a private discussion, but talking about VA funding fees. Yep. Okay, we're talking about there's so many other things: disability, using your BAH, using your housing allowance,
BAS too.
Yeah. Yes. Everything. Yeah. The docs needed to qualify. Yep. The docs needed to qualify. I can't find my DD-214. Don't worry about it. We'll help you order all that stuff. Yep. Okay. So there's so many things that we can do as direct VA lenders to help you. But man, I appreciate getting the opportunity to sit down with you.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, this was awesome. I know this is going to be valuable. If you have any questions, in the description of today's show, whether it's you're watching this on YouTube or on Apple or Apple Podcasts or Spotify, you're going to find Will's information. I want to encourage you to reach out to him. But it's such an honor to be here today. I appreciate your service, man.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, and I can't wait to connect again. We'll be back. We'll do like an advanced Mythbuster show.
I like it.
All right. Till next time, we'll see you next week on the Happy Homeowner Podcast.